Migrants were all set to return to the Baby Stockholm barge today, 2 months after they were first evacuated following the discovery of Legionella. But in a quite unusual twist, actually, Just Stop Oil sent a mob of eco-zealots to try and block the bus transporting them to the barge. Have a look at this.
Guys, if you sit down in front of it, sit down in front of it.
Everyone sit down!
So the unswerving driver ultimately ploughed on through this obstruction of tangerine loons to drop the migrants off. What I found, absolutely hilarious, and it never ceases to crack me up, this, is that when people deliberately put themselves in positions of danger or massive levels of annoyance to the public and then get hysterical when somebody decides to not do exactly what they want. So you stand in front of a coach, which is a massive vehicle with a driver in it, and then when he continues to driving, you release footage on Twitter with, like, threats to kill. This guy's tried to kill me. No, you've got in the way of a bus driver. That's what's happened there. But anyway, I am asking tonight, were Just Stop Oil wrong to attempt to block a bus? Let me know your thoughts. Email me gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me @gbnews. And while you're there, go and vote in our poll on Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now. I'll bring you those results very shortly. I'm pleased to say that joining me now to defend her group's actions is Just Stop Oil spokesperson Emma Brown. Emma, thank you very, very much. Do you not think that it was all a little bit pathetic, that?
No, I don't think it's pathetic to try and put yourself against harm's way. You know, this coachload of people being put onto a barge, which has been called by the Fire Brigades Union potentially a floating Grenfell. Those words were echoed by a whistleblower from the Dorset Council. I think it's perfectly right to try and take direct action to stop that happening.
But why is Just Stop Oil doing it? This is the thing. Another way to describe that barge, I don't know, have you ever been on the barge, Emma?
Have you seen pictures and testimony, Patrick?
Oh, yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, Emma. I'm glad you have, actually, because our Home and Security editor, Mark White, physically went on the barge and we did a live hit from inside the barge. So we know it quite well here. And to be honest with you, it's absolutely fine, really. So I just wonder why Just Stop Oil have decided to wade in on something like the migrant crisis. I would have thought you'd have enough on stopping us all from burning to death.
Do you understand what happens when we burn fossil fuels in terms of the effects of that, Patrick?
Yeah, I get a lot cheaper energy and more efficiently than the way that you want me to do it, yeah.
OK, so I live in Scotland, and right now we've got a warning, a red weather warning that's a threat to health, and we're expecting 48
it's a storm in Scotland, Emma.
48 hours worth of rain. There's going to be a month worth of rain, sorry. So that is an impact. It might flood people's homes, businesses. It's going to ruin a lot of crops.
Emma, so it's a storm in Scotland.
We're seeing all over the world.
It's windy in Scotland, is what you're telling me. It's coming up to November, and it's a bit windy and rainy in Scotland, yeah?
Patrick, that's a complete falsehood that you're manipulating that fact. You know, we've seen floods in Scotland. We've seen entire areas of, extreme weather, places that are not normally flooded. And this is happening all over the world, you know, half of Pakistan being underwater. So what I'm saying is when we burn fossil fuels and it causes extreme weather events, that means that you know, you haven't got access to food. If your crops fail, that might mean your home is flooded. It might mean you're living in an area which is so hot it's uninhabitable. Yeah. And when that happens, I would take my children and go somewhere safer. And that is what is happening.
I do understand, look, I do understand that there is extreme weather in Scotland right now. I'm not trying to diminish the impact that it's having on people's lives. What I am trying to make the point is that there is quite often extreme weather. We've had floods that have lost lives, for example, in the Lake District going back years, all sorts of stuff. It's not necessarily completely new. Also, Emma, I would like to politely say that a lot of the people, in fact, the vast majority of the people coming across the channel on small boats are fleeing other human beings from countries like, say, Iran or Afghanistan, not the environmental conditions. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, so of course. So we have we're part
Right.
of the European Convention on Human Rights, and you know why that was set up, don't you, Patrick? It's to protect people fleeing war, persecution.
Yeah,
and we
but
should
why are
add
you
to that
getting
climate
involved with that? Why are
disasters.
Just Stop Oil getting involved with that? That's an issue. I mean, shouldn't you be? Why don't you?
Patrick,
Why don't you then
these
go and campaign in places where there are rampant human rights abuses? I mean, I don't see you going and trying to stand in front of a bus in Iran, for example. You wouldn't be able to. You know
Listen,
that.
If you've got me on the programme, obviously, to try and create some kind of clash, but I'm just trying to get you to join
Well,
the
let's
dots
call the
here.
clash.
If we continue extracting and burning fossil fuels, opening 100 new oil and gas fields, we are contributing to destroying people's homelands, to destroying areas which are already suffering. If we keep burning fossil fuels, those areas are going to become increasingly difficult to live in. So we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be doing that. And for those innocent people who have been caught up in this, who are suffering, just like they are in Europe, in Africa.
Do you know for a fact, Emma, do you know for a fact if anyone on that bus was fleeing the environmental problems? Do you know that?
There are so many. Even a lot of wars are being caused by environmental problems because
So you know for a fact. It's just because in the past we've had people who thought they were doing really good work for asylum seekers and refugees, like for example trying to stop some of them getting deported, and then it turned out that some of those people that were getting deported were rapists and murderers. And that was a problem. So are you absolutely certain, 100%, that the people that were on that coach that you tried to block there were fleeing and were needing sanctuary in this country for environmental reasons? And by the way, if the answer to that is yes, and you are certain, then what kind of environmental issue are they fleeing in France?
The people on that bus have come here. There are no safe and legal routes, by the way, Patrick. You know that, and nobody ever says that there are no safe and legal routes. They are coming here to have their asylum claims registered, and while they are doing so, they should be in humane conditions, not being put on a prison boat. This is how we start leaning towards concentration camps. If you isolate people from communities...
Right, I'm sorry, but this is where you lose people. Emma, this is where you lose people, right? You go from...
No, this is where
I'm telling you, how dare you come out and start talking about concentration camps in Britain? There is nothing similar to housing people in, by the way, a boat that has already housed a load of people who, either are military people or work in deep-sea rigs or things like that. There is no comparison between that and Auschwitz. How dare you make that comparison? Is this kind of hysterical analysis, right, that means that you lose people? You go from saying, oh, it's too hot outside, to you're going to boil in your own sweat.
OK, have you heard of the Boer War, Patrick? Because the British actually first invented concentration camps during the Boer War.
Right,
and what that
which
means
were
is
nothing
not
like this boat.
Auschwitz. It means forcing people into small, cramped conditions where they don't have any contact with the outside world and they lose a lot of their rights.
But they do have contact with the outside world.
Like
Emma, they can get outside anytime they like. They don't even have a permanent time restriction, Emma. They can get on a taxpayer-funded bus into the local town.
People's homelands. We are contributing to destroying
Emma, they freely come here. They have
policy.
freely come here to this country. They can get out of that barge anytime they like. They are free to roam. It is nothing like a concentration camp. What are you on about?
Patrick, have you not heard of the Rwanda policy?
Oh, great.
That's
nothing like a concentration camp either.
Take them away and just fly them to another country. That is not being part of the European Convention on Human Rights. And that was set up because so many people died. So many innocent civilians died during World War II because people wouldn't let them into their countries. And that was why, that was horrific. And this is why we signed
And this is nothing like that. Yeah,
and this
all
is
right.
why lots of people in this country have got, this is a country of immigration.
How many refugees have you got living with you?
Countries as well.
Emma, how many refugees or asylum seekers have you got living with you, just out of interest? A couple?
I rent one room because we're in a currently, Pardon?
You not got the space?
I rent one bedroom, Patrick. How many spare rooms do you have, Patrick? How much have you sold your soul for to present this programme? which is creating vitriolic hatred and trying to stop people, stop action on the climate crisis, which is going to affect all of us. What I'm saying is, how are you?
I just wonder why you don't decide that surely you could, have an asylum seeker round on your couch, or you could put some bunk beds up in your living room. You've got a bit of space behind it. I mean, if you care so much about it, what are you doing other than sitting in front of a coach dressed in orange, screaming at a bus driver who just went to work today thinking that he's already got a difficult job, and then you lot rock up? What are you actually doing?
A lot of us do work in this area. A lot of us work for Positive Action, which is a refugee organisation, or other organisations, and we do help people. But that is a massive distraction. What we're saying is we need direct action to stop the government imposing these cruel, cruel policies, because we are all human beings. And if my child's life was in danger, if my life was in danger, I would want safe sanctuary, and I would want a decent place to live and to be allowed to work and to be allowed to be free. And so would you. And the climate crisis is coming for everyone.
I think the reason why I choose to live here, and I think if you're being honest as well, the reason why you choose to live and potentially work, I don't know if you do work here, is because actually you really, if you're being honest, recognise that this is one of the best countries in the world. I mean, I don't see. Are you going to go and protest in China at any point, where it matters? No.
I'm not going to dignify that question with a response.
Why not? Because
I'm British, and increasingly...
But even if we did everything that you want, it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. It wouldn't make a blind bit of difference if we did everything that you want, if China carries on doing it.
Let me just ask you one question. Have you heard of the Rosebank oil field? You've heard of it? So you know that one oil field, which is in our waters, one of 100, is going to emit more carbon emissions.
And if we stop doing that, what we're going to end up doing, are we not, is going to end up importing a load of oil, etc., from despotic Islamist regimes in the Middle East instead, or Russia. So why not just use our own?
Nonsense. That's such nonsense. We need to get off oil and gas. Of course, Russia can shut off gas supply, can't they? Russia cannot shut off the wind, Patrick. That is a way more energy efficient and a way more energy secure way to get your energy. So that is a ridiculous, ridiculous argument. We just need to get off.
How much of the UK today was fueled by wind power, Emma?
Our lives are in danger. And if you don't believe that, I'm sorry, but if you do not listen, then you're going to feel the effects of that heat wave that we saw in London. 60 homes burned down.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Emma, I really enjoyed the heat wave. I've got to be honest with you, Emma, I welcome the heat wave. I love the heat wave. We could do with a little bit of it now. Emma, thank you very, very much.
That's incredible.
Interesting stuff. All right, there we go. Sean on Twitter says, what has stopping a coach full of migrants got to do with a sham climate emergency? Just Stop Oil were only out to make a name for themselves and grab the headlines today. Molly on Twitter says, I wonder if they are going to add Just Stop Refugees to the franchise. If so, I think they might gain a lot more followers. Wes on Twitter says, of course, they're constantly in the wrong. Just Stop Oil are total hypocrites. They lecture us about the environment, but they all use cars and planes. One thing I will say is, genuinely, I will say this about Just Stop Oil, is that they are incredibly passionate about their cause, clearly, and they always, pretty much always, say yes to coming on and talking and having debates like the one that we've just had. So fair play to them. Fair play to them. Also, someone said something about a climate scam. I think I'm now legally obliged to say there's not a climate scam, but there we go. 86% of you in our poll agree that Just Stop Oil were wrong to attempt to stop migrants boarding the Bibi Stockholm, while 14% of you say that they weren't. There we go. Coming up, as anti-Semitic chants